Okay. Everyone should have received a notification on their screen that said that the recording is now in process. This is the February 12th meeting of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. I know that you've heard this announcement just a moment ago, but I do need to make it again so it is included on the recording, that this recording is going to be made public. It is hosted on YouTube, but it can only be found on our website, which is www.jeffreyspoint.org. You are not required to turn on your camera at any time. You are not required to show your name. You may change it as it appears, although if you put something that's extra funny, we may call it out. You are also allowed to submit questions through the chat so that your voice does not have to be recorded either. I'm going to introduce myself, and then the other members of the committee will introduce themselves. My name is Margaret Farmer, and I am co-chair of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Huang. I'm the other co-chair. I'll be doing slides tonight. Josh?
Hey, I'm Josh Schmidt. I am the secretary, so I'll be taking notes and handling the chat.
Carolina Chorvath, unfortunately, could not be with us this evening, and we are down one member, which hopefully we are going to have an election and we'll be able to rectify later on in the meeting. We do have a couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow is a snow emergency. If you haven't already heard from the craziness that has been showing up on our screens all over the place, anywhere from, depending on who you ask, 6 to 18 inches. BPS schools have already been canceled. So if there are any kids on the meeting tonight, that means you can stay and watch the entire thing because there's no school tomorrow. There's also a snow emergency in effect. This means that towing will be enforced on roads in the community. These includes Bremen Street, Saratoga Street, Chelsea Street, and Bennington. There is discounts parking available at the municipal lots on both Porter Street and Bennington Street. We encourage you to take advantage. There are rules around space saving. I'm not going to go into them because I value my life. There's the official rules of the city, which you can find on the boston.gov website. And then there's the Thunderdome rules, which are available on the street, and I'll let you figure those out on your own. The one piece of advice I'll give you is don't put out anything as a space saver that you wouldn't want to lose. The next announcement is that the JPNA will be doing an Easter egg hunt in Pierce Park again this year. It will be scheduled for Saturday, March 30th, the day before Easter Sunday, from 9:30 to 12 p.m. We'll be sharing more information as we will get closer. We are looking for volunteers the day of. So we're looking for volunteers on Saturday, March 30th, looking for people to put out eggs, looking for people to put eggs together in advance, looking for ringers to be like sitting with purses, drinking coffee and like putting out eggs after kids run by. Please contact the JPNA for more information, and we'd love to have you. As you may know, every winter, the Boston Public Health Commission and Parks Department offer free fitness classes throughout the city, both virtually and in person. This winter, there are 4 in-person and 7 virtual classes every week, including Zumba, yoga, kickboxing, cardio, strength, Tai Chi, and more. Classes are at all levels, and the in-person classes take place in your local community centers. One of the classes, Strength and Balance, takes place at the East Boston Senior Center on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. All are welcome, and all classes are free and open to the public. We encourage you to participate, both to stay active, to run into neighbors, and to keep moving through the cold winter months. Recently, the JPNA received an email from a local business owner that was very exciting. A business that had been open and a part of our community for many years, unfortunately had to close due to some issues going on, and they announced that they will be opening their doors back up again. This was an incredibly exciting announcement. We were very excited to hear. He's told me I'm allowed to say it, so I'm not stealing his thunder, but Jim Iannuzzi said that Italian Express would be returning, would be opening their doors again. They would be opening the back deck. They're going to be having a slightly changed menu, but those Italian favorites that we all know and love are going to be available again very, very soon. So I wanted to take a quick minute to say congratulations to Jim, and also to turn the floor over to him to let him to share some of his vision and to share just congratulations and how happy we are that he's going to be back with us and there in the evening. So thank you, Jim. Take it away. I'm going to stop talking because I'm so excited. I'm starting to stutter.
Thanks, Margaret. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, and you look great, Margaret.
Thank you.
I'm Nuzzi from Italian Express, and we've been open for over 21 years in East Boston. And we're glad to say that we are coming back after this hiatus that we've taken to strengthen our mental health and physical health, along with so many other businesses in the city that had suffered from COVID. We've had a lot of things going on in our personal life at the same time of staying open. So we've missed everybody, Jeffrey's point, and we're excited to meet all the new people down there and see all our old friends as well. As Margaret said, we're going to make some changes. So it will be now Italian Express Kitchen and Bar will be our new name. And we are going to do the patio as we had in the back, but we're going to really elevate it. And the menu is going to be exciting, some of the old things and a lot of new things. And we're looking probably sometime late 2024 because we are going to renovate the building outside and inside as well. So I just wanted to say hello, everybody, and we're excited to come back down there. And that's really it. We're gonna have a full bar and amazing food, pizza like we did before. And it's nice to have A&L Bakery doing their place over as well. So that's going to be a real happening corner.
Okay, but you're keeping the rollatini, right? That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's Mayo Menino's. We can't get rid of that.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. So, and the things that we're not going to have on the menu, we'll have as specials. So everybody will still be able to get a lot of the same items we had, but we have a lot of new exciting things coming on the menu as well. And again, affordable for everybody. And all are welcome. Very inclusive, safe place to come.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, like, Jim, it's thrilling to hear that Italian Express is opening, but it's most thrilling to hear that it's coming back because everybody's healthy, you know?
Yeah,
like, that's very exciting.
Taken a lot out of so many people. And we're at a place now where, we had the building for sale for a long time and we've had a lot of people wanting to buy it and a lot of offers on it, but it wasn't the right fit for the neighborhood. And loving this town as much as we do, we couldn't do that to especially Jeffrey's point. So we decided let's just reopen. And it was a really good decision for Jonathan and myself. But I'm the boss, not Jonathan. So remember that.
We all know that, Jim. I mean, we all know.
All right. Well, thanks. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm sure you guys are very busy tonight. But it's great to see you. I'll see you in person, I'm sure. And I love to meet everybody that hasn't been to Italian Express. I'm going to be down there probably doing some construction in the next few weeks. And be safe in this giant snowstorm we're supposed to get tomorrow.
Same.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Jim. Have a great night. Love to Jonathan.
I will. Thanks.
Awesome. One more announcement and then we'll move on. I know people get tired of hearing me talk. At the January meeting of the JPNA, we did announce that we would be working to put together a planning process that would be for large scale development. I wanted to give you a quick update that we have made significant progress and that we look forward to being able to walk you through a bit more formally what that would look like at our March meeting, with the goal of being able to roll this out in March and then have the shipyard back in April. We have let them know that we have this as an expected timeline and they are comfortable with that. With the expectation of having them back in April. So we are continuing to move forward. We know that there was concern that it would be several months of us working on this and then several months before they returned. But we are keeping the timeline pretty tight as we want to continue the conversation in the same way that you want to see the conversation continue. We are going to have an election, a JPNA election for the open board seat this meeting. However, I do know that the police and Manuela do have a tight timeline on their schedule. So we are going to have the police and Sergeant Sancholo present first, and then Manuela, the mayor's liaison, go, and then we will do the board elections, just to kind of keep in mind what the order of the agenda is going to be. I did see Officer Santolo has turned on his camera, so I will, and Officer Dwyer, so I will let them take it away. Officer Santolo, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hugo Alvarez is going to give you the update. I just wanted to touch on a couple of subjects I got through email. One was the stairs. I've been in touch with Josh about this, and I think they changed the sign out, the no loitering sign that helps us with enforcement. Also, there's a lot of people that are complaining to 311, to Josh, to elected officials, but I didn't see any 911 calls. It's so much easier for us if we get the 911 call when the gangs or the crews are hanging out, where we can just go talk to them. It could be just as simple as, hey guys, you can't stay here no more, and find another place, and they might just go away, but we just don't know when they're there. In the Webster Street parking, the no stopping, that little tight curve there, we have cars go up and down all day, and hopefully we're gonna get the perpetrators for that, because that does become a dangerous intersection over there if it's not taken care of. I'll take questions after Hugo goes on.
Good evening, everyone. This is Officer Alvarez, and I have the update for the evening. And on January 24th, we had a walk-in into the police station, and this is a fraud report. The victim walks in and files a report stating that he made a check to save the Bay charity. Made a check and checked with his bank, and this check was cash. He checked his account again, and was observed that the bank had been the check had been cashed, the same check number for the amount of $1,000, and it was with the name of with a different person. He checked the bank account a few days later, and sees the same check number with a different amount and with a different number. So just be aware of that these frauds that they're still up and going is a big issue. So check with your bank accounts. We have another extortion blackmail, and this is on February 2nd. A person walks into the police station stating that he was text from a third party, and when receiving this text, he was received some pictures that he was in a compromised position. Also, receive other text stating that if he did not demanding ransom from him, if he didn't make payment of $950, then they would disseminate these pictures all over the media's sites. And so the victim feared for his reputation that would impact him negatively, so he agreed to wire the $950 through Western Union. So be aware of these extortions and blackmails, because this is an uptick, and just like we said, it happens everywhere. We have another incident that took place on February 5th. Officers responded to a radio call at 37 Maverick Square for a person screaming. They spoke to the caller, and the caller stated that while walking on Maverick Square with her dog, the dog was off the leash. The dog ran through the intersection of Maverick Square and Maverick Street. Unfortunately, the dog was hit by a vehicle and it died. So I know that we have a lot of dog walkers in the area. If your dog is not fully trained, put them on the leash, because they could go after a squirrel or something, and bad things could happen, and we don't want that. We have a shoplifting incident on February 6th, and officers responded to 200 Border Street, and that's marshals. They spoke to the loss prevention officer, who stated that a male walked in dressed all in black, carrying a large size plastic bag, made his way through the shoe department. I started putting pairs of shoes in the bag, and that only took him like 3 minutes, and then walked out. He made an attempt to stop him, but it was unsuccessful. We have another incident of assault and battery. This is juveniles. So this is on February 9th. Officers responded to the Mass General Hospital. Upon arriving there, spoke to the victim, and which was a young male, and he stated that he was at the at East Boston Memorial Park at the stadium, and while waiting for a friend, he was approached from behind by two young males. One of the suspects held a cloth to his face, covering his nose and mouth. Victim states that smell like alcoholic odor and lost consciousness. He further reports that he was thrown to the ground and he received punches and kicks, and they're not feeling any impact during the assault. He wakes up a little while after, makes his way to his house, uh, relays the incident to one of his relatives, and he was driven to the East Boston Health Center. From there, he was transported to the Mass General Hospital. This is still being investigated, but if you see any large groups of juveniles, please, just like Sergeant Sotolo said, please give us a call, and we rather 911 calls so we can send someone directly to that location. And we have another incident. This is on February 9th. This is a stolen car. We have a person that walks into the station to report that while doing her laundry on Neptune Laundry on Bennington Street, she left her belongings and car keys on top of the table. And a known male grabbed the car keys and got into her car and drove away. She was she spoke to the laundromat manager. They were able to view the camera and saw the man driven away. So if you're using any type of facilities like this, be aware of your personal items because there's always slippery hands around. And don't forget that we have a snow emergency beginning at 10 this evening, and that's going to be going into effect, and they're going to be towing some vehicles, and we are expecting a large size snowstorm. And if Jim is still around, I just want to congratulate him with the Town Express. Can't wait to see you open. We miss you there.
Mark, we can take some questions if there's any.
Excellent. Josh should have them in the chat.
Yeah, I've got two here. So just to clarify for everybody, I know you've been talking with me, but can you clarify which intersections or sections of Webster Street are being blocked currently by illegally parked vehicles?
Yes, when you make that turn on McCormick Square, halfway up the block on the right and left, there's no stopping emergency vehicle access. All that means is a fire truck would have a hard time making that curve. It's not an intersection, it's the one before Lamson. And so we just want to clear that out. I'm glad people brought that to our attention because that sometimes just gets overlooked.
Yeah, and just for anybody, there's that sign that's right there behind the tree at 228 Webster. A lot of people don't see it or choose not to see it, and they'll park right between that and that fire hydrant. So,
And that's another 911. You see it, call 911. We'll come out and take it. It's supposed to be BTD, but I don't know if they're even doing these spots. I haven't seen them, but we will take care of it if we drive by and see it. But if you see it, call 911. We'll take care of it.
Understood. Thank you. And then
You're welcome.
the other question is don't leash laws require dogs to be leashed regardless of training?
Yes, they should be on the leash regardless.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else.
Excuse me. This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi,
Can-
Karen.
Can you please
Hi,
submit your
hi, Karen.
questions through the, hi, Karen, can you please submit your
Yeah.
questions through the chat? We're
Right
asking-
now, I can't, I have to leave, but I just want to say in front of 222 Webster Street, when you go around the corner, there's always cars, parked there and they're not supposed to because that's an emergency,
Right.
place.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I
We'll
had to
take
do
care
it.
of that, Karen. That's okay.
Yep. So that's the one that you should call 911 for.
Yeah.
If you see that there, and the police will respond to it.
Again,
think
I don't
it-
know what the deal is with BTD, and I think, Margaret, you have invited them to the meetings. I just say keep inviting them because we seem like to be the only ones that show up, and we got no problem taking care of it. But we're so low, and if they're not, if it's busy with 911 calls, we might not be able to make that loop, and that's an important area where, you know, God forbid we do need to get down there, and the fire truck can't get down there because it's two cars parked on either side. So I would, you know, keep them in the loop, keep reporting that to 311, and keep inviting them to the meetings. Maybe they'll show up and hear your concerns.
Yeah, we have invited them several times.
I know.
They
Mhm.
have come in the past. I will
Mhm.
defend them, like they, the once in a while they will come. So they have come. Our understanding is that they will kind of blanket an area of the city for enforcement and kind of like cover an area for a period of time and then kind of move to
Yeah.
another area. And then once in a while we'll kind of come back when we're unscheduled or unanticipated as a way to catch people.
Right. Well,
So
my only argument to that is, are we going to wait till something really bad happens to really enforce it?
yeah,
Mhm.
valid.
And we'll do our best to get up and down there.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. And as always,
Mhm.
if you have unused medications in your
Yep.
house, please do consider going through your or a loved one's medicine cabinet. Yeah, the medicine cabinet, or I was like, I almost called it a liquor cabinet, but I'm like, no, don't bring that to the lobby of the fire station, the police station. But in the lobby of the police station, they do have a place that you can conveniently and safely dispose of things. Is there also a sharps disposal in your lobby as well?
There's not a shop's disposal. I would say the health center has that.
They do not,
They
actually.
don't.
They do not.
Mm.
Okay, I will follow up with Gigi on that one.
Somebody should have that.
Yes, they do not. But I will follow up with her on that one. But
Okay.
there are other services that the police can certainly help you with, but we will talk about them at another time. As it is 7:28 and we do need to move forward on our agenda. But as always, Officer Santolo, we do appreciate you being here this evening and
Thank
staying
you.
in contact. And we look forward to seeing you another meeting.
10
Thank
p.m.
you so
please.
much.
We don't want to tag and show. 10 p.m. Please get your cars moved.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
night.
I'd like to turn it over to Manuela Villa Gomez, who is the mayor's liaison. She's going to make several announcements this evening, and she is also going to remind you that there is a snow emergency and that you should move your car because we do not wish to have it towed. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Margaret, Josh, Susan, everyone from JPNA. Happy Monday, everyone. I do want to remind you that there is a snow emergency in effect coming at 10 p.m. this night. I have a couple of other logistical reminders that you might find helpful. First is that tomorrow, this shouldn't affect really anyone, I don't think, but the trash is being collected 2 hours earlier. So if you know anyone in any other part of Boston, please tell them that tomorrow the trash collection will happen 2 hours earlier. Additionally, I just want to reiterate that BPS schools are all closed tomorrow, as well as any BCYF center, community center will be closed. The Boston Public Library will be closed. If you or anyone else needs emergency shelter, you can access help. The shelters will be open 24 hours a day and they do accept walk-ins. I think I've already sent this to Margaret, all the info for what you need to expect for the emergency. But please sign up for emergency notifications via the Alert Boston app, or you can call 311 for non-emergency related issues. And yeah, that's all that I have to say about the snow emergency. And then I have a fun announcement, which is that in partnership with the Government and Community Affairs at BU Athletics, they're offering City of Boston residents free admission to athletic home games between Friday, February 16th, which is this Friday, up until Sunday, February 25th. The schedule of games you can find on their website, and you can reserve up to 8 free tickets per game by logging on to www.goterriers.com/Boston Week. All of this information Josh will post on the minutes, so don't worry, you'll have all of it. But feel free to share with your neighbors, with your family members. You can reserve up to 8 free tickets per resident or like resident group by logging onto that website, and go get out there, have fun. The other quick piece of information that it's really more me asking for information. If you know of any fun events happening in the neighborhood in the next month or so, please be sure to send them to me. I don't have a ton on my calendar that I can see, but the mayor would love to come out and meet folks and attend events. So the sooner you let me know that something's happening, the sooner I can put in a request for her to attend. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Manuela. 2 more quick reminders about snow that I thought of while Manuela was talking. Number 1, if you do live near a fire hydrant, I do encourage you, and you have the energy or the interest, or a teenager that you need to keep busy. Just a quick reminder that it could save your house if you were to shovel out the fire hydrant. In the case of a fire or an emergency, the minutes or that it can take to shovel out a fire hydrant could be the minutes that like cost you your house. So if you have the energy or the interest, or a teenager you need to keep busy, consider shoveling out your fire hydrant. And I see Manuela snapping her fingers, so that is a good thing. Also, many people do not know this, but there is an organization here in East Boston that is really amazing. They are known as Meridian House, and if you were to make a guess, I'm sure you would all guess they are located on Meridian Street. And they're a recovery home for people who are dealing with addiction issues. And Meridian House, if you call them, will come out and will shovel you out for free. They actually don't want you to give them money because these are people who are in recovery. But if you could make a donation to the Meridian House Activity Fund, they would be grateful, but it is not required. So if you or someone you know live in a home and struggle for whatever reason to be shoveled out, whether that be age, physical disability. Sebastian, I see you have your hand raised. Can I encourage you to put it in through the chat? And Josh will read it out. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Age, physical disability, or even if you just plain don't like the snow, they do have a program, and service is a part of their recovery program. So they're expected to be out there shoveling people all day long. They're out at Eagle Hill first because they are located on Eagle Hill, but they are happy to come out and assist other people. I am scrolling down on our agenda really quick.
Oh, beforehand, I just wanted to point out what Sebastian
Yes.
wanted me to say. So I'm going to include in the minutes a link to be able to find any kind of recommendations for needles and syringe disposal locations. It's boston.gov/government/cabinets. So I'll have that link in the minutes, so you'll be able to access.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're going to do this very quickly because it is 7:30, and I do know that we have several other things on the agenda. We started announcing in December that we had Andrew Pike, our treasurer, step down from the JPNA board. We announced in January. So we announced the opening of the election. We announced the opening of the nomination period in January. The nominations continue to be open. Is there anyone who would like to be nominated and nominate, and you would nominate yourself or be nominated by someone else at this meeting, and then the vote would occur as a part of the email that would go out for voting with this week, with the development project that would go out, which is 200 Everett Street, for this meeting to add someone to the board. Is there anyone who would like to raise this? You can actually unmute yourself for. Is there anyone who would like to participate in that? Okay.
Well, I know she's not here to represent herself today, but I believe that if Carolina were here, she would nominate Gloria Restano, who lives on 292 Marginal Street. Position.
Okay, but Gloria's not here at the meeting, so she would.
And nor is Carolina.
Yeah, so Nora's Carolina. So with her not being here, with Gloria not being here to accept and then not being here to speak to her nomination, I'm gonna encourage that we leave this open for another month. I would hate to have us vote on someone who then says that they either had concerns or is not interested. So okay, we will moving on in the agenda. There is a possibility that they are not here, but because we were warned of this, but is someone from the Conservation Law Foundation here this evening? We did get an email earlier today that they might not be able to make it. But just checking. Yes, no, maybe so. Well, what do you know? 2 seconds ago, we were super behind on the agenda. Now we're doing just fine. Okay, moving forward. That moves us forward. I do see that Paul Sutton from the Boston Parks Department is here. And Paul, I believe you were coming with someone else as well. You were being joined by.
It's actually just myself tonight.
Oh, okay. And you are here to talk about the Rockies Urban Wild, which is a wonderful space on Marginal Street. And we are thrilled to have you join us. Thank you very much.
Oh, happy to be here. And yeah, just wanted to provide a quick update on the Rockies Urban Wild, the only natural area in Jeffreys Point, publicly owned. Yeah, we've been working hard the last couple of years to maintain and restore the site. We've been having a great partnership with Tree Eastie and also Eastie Farm. About 20 new fruit trees were planted over the past year by Tree Eastie. And it's been tough. We had a really bad drought season. You'll remember 23, and then crazy amounts of rain this year. What's nice is the fruit was harvested and will continue to be harvested and distributed into the community food pantries via Eastie Farm. So that's really very positive. A couple of updates for this spring. If any JPNA members are interested, we will be doing again a tree pruning clinic for the community to be held in late March. And Margaret, we'd love to share that information to put on the Facebook page, if that makes sense. Also, we'd like to do a cleanup of the site in probably late April, and we can announce those days too. We've been working on the section of the site above the community garden that was really disturbed there. So with our partners that I just mentioned, we've been really trying to clean that area up and think about what it could be in the future, pollinator meadow extension of the rest of the Rockies, and we welcome any feedback from the community. We still have the site on a slope mowing contract, so a lot of work goes into edge mowing every month, sometimes a full mow of the site. And we're doing selective removal of invasive plants where there's vines and some invasives growing up on the wall at the back of the site and going up the fence. I think that's Brigham Street, right? Let's see, what else? We would love any help reporting. We still, if you can believe it, we still get periodic dumping on the site and cutting of trees. So we'd love if anyone sees anything like that, if they could just report that to 311, that would help us out immensely. I think those are some of the main things I wanted to touch on. I think Bill Masterson's on the call. Did I leave out anything, Bill? I think those were the main things. But if anyone has any questions.
I think you've covered most of the things, Paul. The only thing that we talked about that I'd like to get some input from the community on is the potential of opening up. That's a locked space right now. And I've had some comments from residents who would like to be able to have access to that space to sit on the granite blocks, and just wanted to get some input from anybody in the community as to whether they thought that might be worthwhile. Paul, I know you and I have talked about this, and maybe we do it on a test sort of temporary basis, but yeah, just looking to see whether the community might be interested in that.
Yeah, when we did the renovation in 2017, the JPNA members did understand the off-leash dog problem, and because there's an orchard there, I think there was a consensus to, primarily keep it locked, but we would like to, open it up periodically for community pruning. Harvesting the fruit would be great, and just a general tour of the site, perhaps when things are in bloom in May. So, yeah, we welcome any feedback folks have about that. And of course, we want to partner with Sam Adams School. We want to try to make that connection with the school children to bring them out to the learning center and in the community garden. So a few different things to think about.
I was just gonna say, like some kind of signage to know who, like if you wanted to do a community event, to know who to contact to schedule a community event, because the JPNA has wanted to do some events where we brought the community together, but I wasn't sure, like, should I contact Paul? Like, who should we contact? Like, to do something in the summer to have people to get together to do a tour of the site and to learn about the site. Like, that actually is a great Eastie Week event.
Sure.
So a sign to say, like, if you want to do an event here, here's who you call. I think a bunch of community groups would do it. But to have it just open all the time, the concern is without a dog park down there, it would turn into a dog park. And that's not what people want. Not with fruit trees that you want to have people eat anyway. Josh, is there any questions coming in on the chat?
Actually, somebody echoed your concern about removing the gate would potentially turn it into a dog park in some neighbors' minds. But we had discussed, kind of like the mowing. There were some requests about the mowing to stop. There was also a request because during past storms, the sidewalk in front of the Rockies Urban Street, I believe on Marginal Street, is not really cleared of snow and ice. Is that something that the city can make sure is cleared tomorrow?
Yes. So Urban Wilds, there's a list of about 12 that are high priority, and we've asked our maintenance staff to, this sidewalk used to not be so heavily traveled, but there is a lot more foot traffic, and we understand this. So it is on our list of priority sites for park maintenance to clear. And we've notified them about this storm, so fingers crossed.
Got it. Yeah, so so another one is somebody making a comment that this used to be a wide open and used to love this access. There used to be a walking path from Brigham Street to Maverick, which used to be a great shortcut. but then another one, which is more Brigham the Marginal, sorry. And then I think this other person wanted to say that, wanted to make people aware that the Rocky Urbans has been used and occupied by homeless people and may be relevant to the idea of opening the gates. That might be a concern.
Mhm.
Yep. But that's the end of the comments.
Great, that's helpful. Yeah, we didn't know about we did know that at Chelsea Creek, the Condor Street site, there's some periodic problem with homeless, but we haven't seen that at the Rockies, but we'll definitely keep our eyes peeled. Yeah, we're doing a higher level of maintenance now that we actually have 2 field staff members in a little operational budget, so we can get better eyes on the site and hands on the site.
Okay. Well, we appreciate Paul, we appreciate you being here. Bill, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate both of your efforts. Paul Sutton is with the Boston Parks Department and does a lot of work. You work on all of the parks here in East Boston, correct? Not just the urban wild.
Actually, primarily the urban wilds, to be fair. Yeah.
Okay. Primarily on the urban wild, but Bill Masterson is of course a part of Tree Eastie and has been a driving force on a number of the initiatives you've seen around, both to like plant trees across East Boston, but also care for the trees that get planted. It's one thing to get the trees in the ground, but as Paul pointed out, you get a tree planted and then you have a year that has a drought, a significant number of those are lost. So it's it's not just planting them, there's also the follow-up. So we're grateful to both of you for your efforts. People here may or may not realize that East Boston has the lowest amount of tree cover of any neighborhood in the city of Boston, and that is something that needs to change. And so we're both grateful to both of you for helping us correct those. We're both grateful to both of you for your efforts to correct that. Took a second, but I got the sentence out.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. And
Thank
I'm
you,
sure
Paul.
Bill will probably be contacting you in a couple months so that we can hear from your group, so we can get more details about what you're up to and about how people can get more involved.
Look forward to it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to the more formal part of the evening. We do have a development presentation this evening. This is 200 Everett Street. This is the third presentation they have presented at two planning and zoning meetings, pardon me. The proposal is to erect an addition. So the proposal is for a rehabilitation of the existing building, and erect an addition and change the occupancy from 2 to 3 units, add a roof deck and additional rear decks. The development is 200 Everett Street LLC. This is represented by attorney Richard Lynds. The slides will be handled by Susan, who is here this evening. Attorney Lynds will be presenting and take it away. Attorney Lynds.
Thank you, Margaret, and good evening, everyone. For the record, I'm Richard Lynds, an attorney here in East Boston. I represent Ali Abdullah and Yulia Daniels. They are the owners of 200 Everett Street. And as you had mentioned, we had presented this previously at some prior JPNA P&Z subcommittee meetings, and we have some updates to share this evening. So I'd like to run through the deck briefly and then answer any questions at the end. So if we could advance to the next slide, please. So as Margaret indicated, this is an existing 2-story dwelling. We are proposing a complete renovation of the existing structure and vertical addition, as well as the change of occupancy, which will change us to a 3-family dwelling upon completion. A 3-family dwelling is currently a conforming use in the district, so up to 3 units are allowed currently on a single lot. And I'll run through the zoning slide in a moment, but it will also be a conforming use under the new zoning, which the recommendation was recently adopted by the Boston Planning and Development Agency in January. As a result of the extent of the upgrades and renovations that we're proposing, we also have to upgrade the life safety of this building. So this building will now be fully sprinkled. Our units will consist of a 3-bedroom, about 1,100 square feet, which would be a bi-level occupying the lower level and the main level, which would be the first level. We have a 1-bedroom, about 612 square feet, and unit 3 will be a 2-bedroom with about 747 square feet. We are also proposing to incorporate a roof deck that will be exclusive to the upper level unit, unit 3. Our proposed occupancy would be for home ownership. So these are intended to be condominium units with individual homeowners for each unit. Next slide, please. So our abstract from the Boston Planning and Development Agency's website shows that we are a 20-foot wide by 45-foot deep lot, pretty consistent with the other 3 lots that are adjacent to us as you go down Everett Street towards Maverick Square. This is currently located at 3F 2000 zoning district. Even though the Boston Planning and Development Agency has recommended changes to the zoning in East Boston, that has not been finalized yet. That is pending a vote of approval from the Boston Zoning Commission, which will likely occur, I believe, in March, last I heard. But I can talk through some of those differences when we get to the next slide. Next slide, please. So these tend to be a little bit more complicated these days. I used to have a much more concise summary, but 2 things happening here. First is we have existing zoning, which is known as 3F 2000, and we have proposed zoning under Plan East Boston, which is EBR 3. I'll summarize this quicker. I won't get so far into details. I know you have other things on your agenda, but essentially there is relief that would be necessary for this project under our current Article 53. And that would be specifically the minimum lot size for an additional dwelling unit. Because we're only 900 square feet, we do require 1,000 square feet every time we add a unit. So therefore we require a variance under the current zoning code. We also require a variance for minimum usable open space, because you would have to have 900 square feet of open space, and we only have 162 square feet. So therefore we would require a variance under the current code. Our floor area ratio is something that is already non-conforming. We have what's called a 2.21 ratio, which means we have about 221% more of our land area for floor space. We are going to increase that up to 3.43, which is something that would still violate the zoning code under Article 53. So we would require a variance under that currently. And then parking, because we are required to have 2 parking spaces, we would be in violation of the code, because we originally, when we filed this permit, had proposed to have 1 parking space, but that's going to be eliminated when you see the updated plan. So those are the 4 items we would require relief from. If we look at the relief under Plan East Boston, as you'll see, some of the changes that are pretty significant for all of East Boston for new zoning is that this project would now comply in pretty much all respects under the new zoning. Specifically, the minimum lot size for additional dwelling units has been eliminated, so therefore it wouldn't require a variance. We also don't have a minimum usable open space requirement under the new zoning, so therefore we would also eliminate that variance as well. The floor area ratio throughout the entire neighborhood of East Boston, with the exception of certain areas located, we call the EBR 2.5 districts, has been eliminated. So there is no longer an FAR for most of East Boston. So this would comply as well. And then for parking, probably one of the most significant changes under new zoning is that up to 3 units requires no parking. So we do not have a parking requirement under new zoning. So all of those items that typically we review in connection with a project would all be in compliance with new zoning. The only new items are permeable surface and building lot coverage. It says that we're able to have up to 75% of our lot covered by the building. This is a pre-existing condition already, and the new zoning says that if you already have a building that covers more than 75% of the lot, that's fine as long as you don't cover any more of the lot. And then we also have a permeable surface requirement, which is 15% of the lot, but 162 square feet. We're going to have about 18% permeable surface based upon our changes. So that's sort of the zoning summary. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end on that, but essentially this is going to be pretty much in line with what the zoning will require under new zoning. Because we filed this under current zoning, we are still identifying the variances that we require. And we get before the board, depending upon when that is, if the zoning has changed by that time, then these variances will disappear. And we essentially will probably just go for some technical interpretation issues under the new zoning. So we'll come back to that if there's any specific questions. Next slide, please. So our existing conditions are here. You can see the photos for the rear, right side, in front of the building up towards the top. And then a quick map overview. I have some better photos if we jump down to the next slide. It's bird's eye view showing the surrounding context. You can see the building that's directly behind us is about 3 stories, maybe a little bit more. Next slide, please. Another view, just looking at the front of our building. Next slide. And then a street view of the existing conditions. As you can see, it's a 2-story attached building. It's attached on the left side, which is pretty typical of the conditions in this section of the street. Next slide, please. Different view just from the corner, so you can see the grade separation from Everett Street as you go down Aramon Street. We almost have a full walkout condition as you get towards the back of the building. Next slide, please. And just a different view looking down Everett Street. You can see some of the context of other properties as you go down Everett on the left side of Everett Street. Next slide. And then we show our rendering. So some of the changes that you'll see here is that we've actually added a little bit of a bump out detail for the addition as you go up to the 3rd level, but also have modified that 2nd level as well as the front entranceway and the alignment of some of the windows. And you can see that we really activate that lower level, which is that basement area that becomes the full walkout in the lower portion of Unit 1. Next slide, please. So here's our existing conditions plan. Pretty similar to the BPD abstract showing the depth of our lot at 45 feet. We have a 20-foot width. There's an existing deck off of the back. And then the footprint of our building is identified as going lot line to lot line and almost all the way to the back of the property. Next slide, please. So this is our proposed condition that we had originally filed. We talked to the neighborhood about this at the prior meetings. We heard some very specific concerns from the abutter to the left. It's Brian Gannon. And we, listened to those concerns and went back and tried to make some modifications that we feel were responsive to those concerns. So the first was to eliminate that proposed parking spot, which would be under the decks. Second would be to reduce the decks. So the decks currently shown here would go back almost all the way to the rear property line. So we've made the modifications based upon those suggestions from the neighbor. If we go to the next slide, please. Probably go to the next slide after this. One more slide. Okay. So as you can see here, it might be a little tough to read, but the extent of those decks currently are a little, probably about 9 inches short of 6 feet. So the existing deck itself is going to pretty much remain as it is. We do modify the deck a little bit. We increase the depth about a little over 9 inches to make it a full 6 feet. So you can go to the next slide, please. Next slide. And here we go. So what we're showing is, you can see on the left side, that's the lower level. What we've done is we've added some permeable surface. We've eliminated the parking, and we've also created a walkway. That walkway will actually become an additional recorded means of egress for the neighbors at 198 Everett Street. So one of the concerns that the neighbor had at 198 Everett was the ability to access Aramon Street. And if we include a car or an additional depth on that deck, that may have impeded their access. We had some reasonable disagreement over whether or not a right of access existed. That issue has been resolved. My client is more than willing to memorialize that access in perpetuity, so that walkway will now become a permanent means of egress for the property. So once this project is completed, once it becomes a condominium, that right of access will continue because that will happen before any condominium documents are recorded. And whoever owns the property in the future will have to honor and recognize that access, can't block it, can't do anything to impede with the ability of the owners of 198 Everett Street from accessing Aramon Street from the back of their property. In addition, as you can see in the bubbled area, the deck was modified slightly to increase that out an additional a little over 9 inches, so it is a full 6 feet. One of the reasons that we're required to make that depth at 6 feet is so that it can count towards the usable open space. We want to ensure that we are making that deck large enough, not too large, but large enough so that it is usable for the occupants of that unit. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, just the floor plans, as I mentioned, unit 2 is about 612 square feet, and unit 3 at 747 square feet. They have the decks of the same size going up. They're not fully covered decks, so they're essentially just being used as smaller spaces, as well as an additional means of egress off the back of the building for the roof deck that we're showing on the right side of the page. As you can see, the roof deck is pushed all the way to the back of the building. It's not located towards the front, and it complies with the requirements of the setbacks that's typically set forth for roof decks in the community. Next slide, please. You can see here the elevations of our building. You can see that on the left side, we're showing the front of the building. And then you can see on the right side is the right side of our building, showing those decks as we've pulled those in. Originally, those were being proposed to extend further towards the rear property line. And then you can see the roof deck, as I mentioned, being pushed towards the rear of the property as well. There is no head house. That roof deck is accessed by that stairwell off of the deck for the upper level unit 3. Next slide, please. Showing the back of our building and our relationship to the building to the right. So we are slightly taller than the building to our right. One of the other things that we discussed with the neighbor to our left at 198 Everett is that as we plan for construction of our building, that we design that wall in a way that we will ensure that if there's any future expansion of the building at 198 Everett Street, that can be done relatively easily without much modification. So the type of material and surface that we will include will allow for the property at 198 Everett to build right up to the property line as well. And there are certain building code requirements that are set forth, and we're happy to do that as well to assist and accommodate them with any future plans for expansion they may have. So we will incorporate that into our design. Next slide, please. So we started this process in October. We filed our appeal in November. We've gone through the community outreach process, including the abutters meetings, as well as the prior JPNA planning and zoning. We are requesting a vote on this project tonight. We anticipate having a hearing before the zoning board before the winter's out, assuming that the zoning changes that are being proposed are adopted and we don't require any additional relief. We may just be before the board for interpretation of the new zoning rather than variances themselves. Assuming we get that all completed, we will go to what's called design review with the Boston Planning and Development Agency. That'll occur sometime probably in the spring. The earliest, probably most optimistic timeline for permit issuance would be the summer. And we expect this project to take about 8 to 10 months to complete. So I believe, next slide, please. I believe that's it, and I'm happy to answer any questions or address any comments.
Sure. I only have one question in the chat so far. If anybody's interested in asking any questions, please go ahead and add them into the chat. But the one that I have is from a direct abutter. She said, shouldn't there be a 3-foot easement on the back at the back of the lot?
Yes, there will be it's 3 foot. Yep, correct. So if you go back, if you want to go back to that slide, it actually calls it out on the revised plan. It shows it as a 3 foot easement. And that will be done by way of a recorded instrument in the registry of deeds once the zoning process is concluded.
Okay. I don't see. Okay, well, another person wanted to also admit that it's transitioning from a single occupancy home to a 3-family.
That's correct, which under current and new zoning is an allowed use.
Okay. And another one just came in. Why was parking eliminated? It seemed like that should be a priority.
So, you know, I don't disagree that sometimes parking is a priority, but, you know, when weighing the concerns and interests, you know, there's not a one size fits all for every project. In this case, the direct abutter was prioritized more, simply because there were some very specific concerns about access to their property, including parking may have prevented that access from occurring. And our commitment in response to their, you know, stated opposition at prior hearings was to incorporate the 3 foot easement that will allow them access. And that would be incompatible with including a parking spot. It would also be incompatible with reducing the deck, because the supports for the deck would need to be essentially in the same spot as where the parking would be. And I would point out, I don't know if Brian or Alyssa are on, but I would point out that I believe they've communicated to the JPNA that they've withdrawn their opposition to the project based upon our commitment to make the changes as I've just articulated.
Yep, I don't see any other questions coming into the chat, and I guess we've been sitting here for a few minutes. So, Margaret, I didn't know if you had any more comments.
Okay. Quick explanation that this means that this project will go to a vote. This means that people who are eligible to vote, that means that if you are present this evening, you know who you are, and you have been present at one meeting in the previous 3 months, or you are present at this meeting and are an abutter to this project, you will receive an email. You will receive an email on or around Wednesday evening. The vote opens on Wednesday. The vote closes on Friday at 5 p.m. There are no late votes accepted. If you do not receive a vote Wednesday evening and you think that this is an error, please check your spam folder. 90% of people who believe that they should have received a ballot in their email find it in their spam folder. It will go to the email address that you have used to register for this meeting. If you check your spam folder and you do not find it, then you should email board@jeffreyspoint.org, and we will be happy to check our records and find out if one was sent to a different email address and ensure that one is sent to you. We have one other item on our agenda, which is excellent, as it is now 8:10. So I do expect that we will be able to finish in time. And that is the JPNA year in review. It will take just a few minutes. It is a look back at 2023. Yay. And the reason you want to participate in this is because at the end, we're going to ask couple of very important questions of the people who are here at this meeting to ask what you think our focus on should be for the coming year. So it's a state of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. And we can go to the next slide. The first one's super easy. And the mission of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association is to address community concerns, foster civic engagement, work with elected officials and community leaders to enhance our unique and diverse neighborhood. We do this through hosting community events, guiding development, improving our public spaces, and working with elected officials and city departments through both feedback, by hosting road shows here at our meetings, and by keeping the community informed through what is going on both at their meetings and other activities. Next slide, please, Susan. Currently, the JPNA is myself, Margaret Farmer, Susan Huang, who is here this evening, Josh Schmidt, who is here this evening, and Carolina Chorvath, who unfortunately could not be here. Again, we do have an open seat available, so if you are interested, please let us know. We would be happy to have you. This year, in addition to holding meetings every month, we were able to hold a wide variety of events. In April, we held our first annual Easter egg hunt in Pierce Park. The Easter egg hunt has been held for many years. It was up in Cuneo Park for several years, and then it was out on Constitution Beach, and now it's become so big that it needs to move down to Pierce Park. In July, we held 2 movie nights, one in conjunction with the, one is a part of Eastie Week, and then another that was held independently, and then we held our summer potluck. In December, we held the holiday potluck at the Jeffreys Yacht Club. We also, it's not listed here, but we also held our, in July, or I believe it was in August, we held our Jeffreys Point Free Stuff Day, which encouraged people to put things out on the curb so that they could be taken away to both reduce waste and make it easier for people who might not have cars to get rid of items and to reduce waste. So those are some of the fun activities that we were able to implement throughout the year. Next slide. A big part of what we do here is at the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association is involved with development. We actually had a very slow year last year. It was really surprising. A significant number of the parcels that are available here in Jeffreys Point have been filled with development. So last year we only had 7 projects. We did have 1 project waiting, which was 200 at Everett Street, and that moved to a vote this evening. We'll see the results of those on the next slide. Of those, we voted in favor of 7 of those projects, and we were opposed to 2 of those. Here you can see the breakdown of those votes. The closest one, I believed, was the Tall Ship, and the second closest was, of course, 4 Haynes Street, which you can now see is in development. You can take a walk by if you'd like to take a look at it. Go ahead to the next slide. We, of course, wanted to give you a look at our financials. We started with $7,245 in the bank. Over the course of the year, we took in $2,900. This was, of course, through the 2 raffles that we did this year. We did one at the potluck, and then we did another at the holiday potluck. We thank everyone who participated in both of those. We pay our yearly fee to the Mass Attorney General's office in the amount of $35. We did purchase a few items for the potluck in the amount of $125 for the December potluck. An overwhelming amount of our money is spent on technology, as you can see here. We pay HostGator for our host as our website, Buffer, which is I believe it was a widget that helped us post on multiple sites at once to save us time. eBallot is what we use for our voting. GoDaddy.com, which is another, I believe it's a hosting site, and then Zoom. We needed to upgrade to the large Zoom, which allows us to have more than 100 people at a time, because we had several meetings that went over 100 people, and we wanted to be able to host everyone all at once. We do have insurance. This is board and officers insurance at the cost of $712 a year. And then we do have a US Post Office box. The reason we have a post office box, for many years we did not. And what we found was that as board members changed, the official address of the organization had to change as members moved on and off the board. This became an issue. It was one thing when you have to change your bank information, when you have to go down to the bank and change people, put people on and take people off accounts. But then changing the official address actually became another onerous thing as well. So the choice became to simply get a post office box. It was something that we were able to just have as a static thing, and then it was not something we had to change anymore. As you can see, that we then had several costs that became associated with the community event of the Easter egg hunt. We paid for one of the face painters. The other face painter was paid for by the East Boston Foundation. Knucklebones, which was the activity group that did that was in the ellipse, that did the physical activity. And then we had some miscellaneous Easter egg on costs, like we paid for some of the eggs, and then we also paid for some of the signage. For the July potluck, I believe most of that was the paper goods. And then the August movie night, we did need to wind up paying someone to do the AV costs. This is something that we might look into in the future. We'll have some internal discussions about what equipment we use. I will say Mary Cole used to provide the computer and the screen and some of the speakers. So it brought home some of, when there's change on and off the board, you suddenly realize, oh, this person did this. And now I understand, like, oh, now they don't do it anymore. I understand what they did now that they're gone. So even though we started with $7,000 and we took in $2,900, but we spent $4,700. So we have an ending balance this year of $5,436. So we are at a healthy point. However, we will need to be cognizant of our costs throughout this year as well. Next slide. I will say that these are goals of the board, but these are not the only goals that we have. One of the reasons that we present the state of the JPNA to the community is because we want this to foster a discussion. We'd like you to put some ideas in the chat of what else our goals should be. What else should we be striving for? What else should we be thinking about? This organization, we believe, answers to the community. So what else should we be trying to accomplish? So I'm going to read off some of the goals that the board has had a chance to discuss and has included here, but we'd also like you to let us know what else should we be doing. So this one is always included, and that is to increase attendance and participation in both monthly and planning and zoning meetings. Develop a new community process for large-scale development projects. Increase opportunities for neighbors to interact with one another. We did do that last year by adding several events, but we're going to look into doing that again this year. Promote engagement with other East Boston boards. Support Friends of Brophy Park and Friends of the Golden Stairs Terrace Park, and reintroduce the JPNA Fall Fling. As always, please feel free to put those in the chat. I'm going to ask Josh to share them in a moment. I did just want to point out that if you have additional thoughts that you think of after this meeting is over, you are welcome to share them at board@jeffreyspoint.org. And also that this presentation will be put up on our website. We do believe in transparency. So if you want to review the financials or review the list of activities or anything else, you will have the opportunity to do so at your leisure. Susan, can you take the slides down? So, Josh, I wanted to give people a moment. I will make some closing housekeeping things and then give Josh a chance to read anything else. Just a quick reminder that the next meeting of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association is scheduled for Monday, March 11th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. As of this moment, there is no planning and zoning meeting scheduled for this month. However, if one is scheduled, it would be on, I need to look that up really quickly. If there is one, it will be scheduled for Wednesday, February 21st. As always, Our email address is board@jeffreyspoint.org, and our website is www.jeffreyspoint.org. A reminder again that emails for voting go out on Wednesday in the evening, and they are due on Friday, which would be Friday, February, let me look at my calendar, February 16th at 5 p.m. Josh, anything in the chat that we should
Yep, I was just responding to something. Yeah. So I've got 2 comments in here, but I do want to add my comment as well. When we talk about supporting the Friends of Brophy Park and Friends of the Golden Stairs Terrace Park, there are 2 different items that I did want to mention. I think we had discussed in the past. Well, you did know that Mary Cole and I were able to plant a lot of daffodils about a year and a half ago during the fall cleanup, and was able to do Boston blooms. I definitely want to do that again this year. Unfortunately, couldn't do it this last year, but it's not going to be needed because we had a beautiful summer, lots of precipitation. So I imagine they're going to be just as beautiful. But we are looking for summer flowers. If anybody has any ideas about how to get summer flowers, we really appreciate that. So it can be beautiful and colorful the whole day, the whole year. But what I did want to add is that last year we did discuss right around EC Week the Golden Stairs Parish for the Community Preservation Act. I think we are still committed to that, but I'm definitely looking for any volunteers that can help with visioning and making a reality for the future of the Golden Stairs. So with that said, I'll get to what other people are saying. So one comment was whether or not we had done any facilitation training or any visioning or strategic planning, as that might be helpful.
We had someone who volunteered to do some facilitation training with us, and we said that we would be very interested, and then they traveled out of the country for several months. So when they get back in April, they said they'd be happy to work with us. We certainly be happy to do it. There's no such thing as too much training, in my opinion. So certainly, I mean, it sounds wonderful. If you know someone who'd be interested in providing it, we would be certainly happy to take it, or at least I would. I hate to sign Carolina up for something without her being here, but I think she'd be interested as well.
Yeah. Then I think there was another question about in-person meetings. So whether or not those would come. I know we had the 2 wonderful meetings. We had a wonderful event in December and in July where we were able to be in person, but I think this person is more talking about more monthly meetings or PNC meetings in person.
Yeah, I mean, the issue becomes that we actually gained a significant number of people that are more willing to attend a meeting on Zoom. A lot of people who have children have said that being able to attend on Zoom is more realistic for them. And that means that we would have to do a hybrid meeting so that we wouldn't lose those people who would want to be able to participate. And we've said several times, there are several times that we've brought up, hey, we're interested in doing a hybrid meeting. The board is 5 people, as you can see. The board is normally 5 people. Now we're down to 4. We're missing 1 person tonight. That means that's 3 people running a meeting. So for 3 people to try to do a hybrid meeting is actually it's more difficult. So there was a time that we were looking for volunteers. I know you want to say something. Richard, I'm going to encourage you to put it in the chat because I would make anybody else put it through the chat.
I did, and Josh says we can't discuss it, so I just like to I go back to one item if possible. It'll take you 2 seconds. I believe Brian Gannon had sent you an email to the board. I know he had a slot this evening for the Abutters presentation, which, you know, he's withdrawn. I think it's imperative, you know, based upon the presentation and the past comments of Brian, that his email be read into the record for those who may be voting on the 200 Everett Street project. If you don't have it handy, I do have it right in front of me. I'm happy to read it as well. But I think it's important that the board convey that, especially since we spent a good deal of time on Brian's opposition of the project. Thank you.
Okay, well, let us finish this conversation first, because we're talking about we've moved on to this, and then we do have a couple minutes left. We can certainly go back to talking about the 200 Everett Street, but let me. You interrupted while we were talking about this other issue, but the issue of hybrid meetings is that we would, number one, we would need to have people who would consistently volunteer to help us set up. Number two, I would want to borrow equipment for a couple of months to make it happen, because it would be an outlay of several $1,000s to come up with equipment, depending on where we went. Like, we're looking at potentially computers. We would probably need at least 2 cameras, possibly 3, depending on where we went. We could go to the Conrack building, but that means that we're, if we wanted to do it like a couple of trial times, but that means that we're going somewhere outside of the JPNA, which has limited parking. I mean, the attractiveness of it is that it is handicap accessible, but it has limited parking. The yacht club said that they might be interested. They might be willing to let us video record there, but that means that we would need to bring our own cameras. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. I actually think that there's a lot of positives there, actually. Like, I think there's, you know, I think that there could be a real impact for having meetings in person. The issue becomes, even if we're just going to try it out, the outlay for us to just try it out, to do it even a few times, can become incredibly high. And if we put out the outlay to do it and then we decide not to do it for whatever reason and go back to doing it Zoom only, I mean, that could potentially have a long-term impact on the organization. So I have concerns. If we could come up with 2 or 3 volunteers every month who said, like, yeah, I'll do it. The board just has, you know, the board already can put in anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week. And so then we ask them to put in another like 3 to 5 to like to get home early from work, to pack up everything, to get it down to where we're going, to get it all set up to run the meeting. I think it's a lot to ask. And, you know, and as you can see, we have an open seat already, and people are not clamoring to fill it. So I really, you know, I don't want to burn people out. So I see that you want it. And let me put it this way. If I had two or 3 people who were jumping up and down to saying, I'll do it. Absolutely. Let's do it. Otherwise, is there anything else, Josh? I see that we're losing people quickly, and it is 8:28. So I just want to
Yeah,
check.
I think we should let Richard say what he does for the
Okay,
record.
but actually, I'd prefer one of us read it into the record, if we're going to read it into the record. But so, are there any more comments in regards to this topic before we move back to the Everett Street proposal?
Yeah, that there's a comment about trying to make a strategic concern about the parking due to cumulative variances in the level of non-resident parking that seems to be increasing. Can we develop a vision or actionable strategy? I don't think that's something we can discuss in 2 minutes. And then another comment where
I'm sorry. Can you go back and read that slower? I didn't understand what it was. Can you go back and read it?
Sure. A strategic concern to our community is parking, which due to the cumulative variances granted to developments and the level of non-resident parking that seems to be increasing. Can we develop a vision and an actionable strategy, or must we just resign ourselves to a deteriorating situation?
Okay. I think that's
really hard to answer in a minute. So
it is. I think it's a very valid question, though. I think it's a great I think it's a great question. I agree with you that we can't address it, but I think it's a valid question. And what was the other one?
The other one is just a comment that the JPNA meetings seem to fall on the same night as Jeffrey's Yacht Club meetings, which make it difficult for certain people. Yeah.
So I would just like to point out that actually they're not meant to. They fall on the same night when there is a holiday the first Monday of the month. And back when we had meetings at the Jeffreys Point Yacht Club, when there was a holiday the first Monday of the month, their meeting would get bumped to the second Monday of the month, and we would get bumped from the second Monday of the month to the second Tuesday of the month. So that is a fun fact, fun trivia fact. But that was all.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, so it is 8:30, but going back, I don't think that this needs to be read. But if you feel but Attorney Lynn seems to feel that this is important, that but the statement I have from Attorney Gammon, but the statement I have from Abutter Brian Gannon states that considering our broken system, I cannot afford to pay for proper representation to completely protect my home from the impacts of this project. We agreed to a few terms that address our most significant issues with the understanding that we would not publicly oppose, so we are simply abstaining. According to the way the ZBA works, you can never truly oppose a project because they can return with a slightly modified project over and over, racking up significant legal fees. So that's the email that I have. I think
Let me just add one thing, Margaret, because that's interesting that Brian sent you that, because what he forwarded me was something entirely different, and I'm a little disappointed that that was the statement that he suggested that was being sent to you. So I think in the interest of completeness, and I think it's important since Brian did spend a lot of time opposing our project, I was forwarded a different email that said that I will not need my slot for an abutters presentation tonight, as we were able to work with the developer to designate a proposed easement and reduce the rear scope of the project. I really appreciate this opportunity, as well as the opportunity of the P&Z meeting. The ability to present really enhanced my ability to share my concerns and negotiate with the developer. We worked out a way to retain the easement and limit the rear scope of the project. We will withdraw our formal opposition. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Brian represented that the statement that was sent to you is not the same statement that was told to me as being sent. So I appreciate the opportunity to say that. And I just think, Margaret, to be honest with you, in the interest of, we were asked to come to multiple P&Z meetings. We were asked
Richard, the thing is, Brian didn't say anything. I mean, you got the chance to present.
Entirely different to
presented the thing. He withdrew. You could have let it rest. And people would have just voted. Like, you brought it up and wanted the statement read. I didn't have the statement he said.
Margaret, excuse me. I wanted the statement read because Brian forwarded me the statement because it was a specific condition of us making the change. And Brian sent me a statement that he purportedly sent to you, and it was entirely different than what you just read.
Well, I don't see I don't know what conversations you guys had. I don't know what statement you had. Like, I don't have that. Like, I don't have a statement or anything else. Like, all I have a statement from him is that he didn't need to be here this evening, that things worked out between the two of you. So, like, you asked that there be a statement.
It was
like,
a little,
I don't know what statement that you're talking about.
To it, Margaret, than what he told me he sent to the board. And it was a condition of our understanding. So, maybe I'll talk.
All right, Margaret, if I could just interrupt, there was an email that came in from Brian Gannon with the original statement, Richard.
Okay, so then clearly I made a mistake and I apologize. Like, if there was something else, like I didn't see it. Like, Richard asked that it be read, and I went looking through the thing, and this, like, I saw a conversation between Brian and Susan, and assumed that was like what you were referring to. So clearly I made a mistake, and then I'm the one that should be held accountable, not Brian. So there was clear. I saw a conversation between the two of them. I assumed that's what it was. So this was my mistake, not Brian's. So I do apologize. Like, in the heat of the moment, like, we're here at the end of the night, and I'm just trying to like you interrupted a conversation that I was having with during a different topic. And so I took that to like try to find what was going on, which I didn't appreciate. So I do apologize. That was clearly my mistake. So Susan, could you take a moment and could you read the statement that Brian sent?
Sure. So
Clearly,
Brian
clearly I did not find the right one. So I think you should do the right one.
Brian did send in an email this morning at 11:50. It says, "Hello all, I will not need my slot for the Abutters presentation tonight as we were able to work with the developer to designate a proposed easement and reduce the rear scope of the project. I really appreciate this opportunity as well as the opportunity at the P&Z meeting. The ability to present really enhanced my ability to share my concerns and negotiate with the developer. We worked out a way to retain the easement and limit the rear scope of the project. We will withdraw our formal opposition."
I just feel that was.
So can we just stop for a second? Because I'd like to apologize to Brian, okay? Because I would like to take a moment here, and I would like to apologize to Brian Gannon, and I would like to apologize to Alyssa Vengali, because they clearly, like you just, as you just heard from Susan, like, and as you read out earlier, they clearly sent a kind and straightforward conversation, and then had a private interaction with a board member, which I, not realizing what was going on and unthinkingly shared with the community, which has clearly caused some strife. And I would like to apologize to both of them personally, because that was not my intention. There was no malice here. I am very sorry. I have clearly caused a problem, but like in this instance, and that was never my intention. I know that, Brian, I know that this situation, you've lived in this community a long time, and I know that you love this community, and I know that you want to get along with all your neighbors, and I know that you care very deeply about where you live, and I know that this has caused a lot of stress to you, and I know that this mistake that I have just made has probably added to this stress, and I deeply, deeply apologize. You shared your private thoughts with a board member, and those private thoughts should remain private. And I deeply, deeply apologize to you. This was my mistake, and I own this, and I will be far more careful in the future. I hope that no one holds this against any other board member or any other member of our community. I was in a hurry, and I should have been more careful, and I should have tried to verify what was like the statement and what was the right thing to read out. Like it is the end of the night, and I've received a lot of feedback over the years that when we hit the end of the night that I need to like cut it off. It's on me to like cut it off. You need to cut it off. And clearly I was thinking more about that and was not thinking about, hey, what did this say and what was the right thing to make happen here? And I am sorry. And I'm very sorry that this has caused an already tense and upsetting situation to be more difficult. And I am very sorry about that. That would not be something that I would want to cause for you or for anyone else. And I am deeply sorry. And if there's something that I can do to ease this situation, or, if you want me to write an apology letter publicly to both of you, I am happy to do that, because I would hate, I mean, I know you and Richard aren't like the best of friends, but I certainly would not be the cause of this to be I would not want this to be a more difficult relationship for the two of you for something that I had done.
We worked out the issue. Please, let's not overshadow what was accomplished here by saying we're not the best of friends. That has zero to do with this. I'm an attorney that represents a client. It has nothing to do with Brian's friendship and my friendship. We, at the suggestion of the JPNA, worked very closely with Brian and Alyssa and came up with a plan that they're satisfied with. And all I wanted read was the fact that they withdrew their opposition. But to call me out on it and then suggest that somehow we're not the best of friends, I don't know what that has anything to do with it. So, again,
I'm just saying that I made the situation worse. Richard, I'm just saying that you did. You came forward to the table. You came to one planning and zoning meeting. We asked you to return. You did. We asked you to sit down with the abutters, especially Brian, and you did. I'm just saying that my reading the wrong thing this was already, when anything happens and it's near your house, it's a difficult thing. It's emotional. People care about where they live. And, we're coming to the end of that. And my reading the wrong thing created, it's already a difficult situation. My reading the wrong thing made it more difficult. So I'm saying, like, what I'm trying to say is that I made something more difficult. And so like my saying, you know, you're not the best of friends. It's not about that. It's saying like, I'm trying to say, I recognize that I have made that situation more difficult.
Conversation. My friendship with Brian should have zero to do with the project. I represent property owners, and at the instruction of JPNA, work very diligently on their behalf. Whether I'm friends with Brian or not has zero to do with the conversation. And
But
I don't think it even.
but I want you to be able to, I mean, this is not, but Richard, this is not the last project you're going to do in the community. I mean, there's going to be other times that you and Brian, I mean, you're going to have other projects that you and Brian are going to run into each other on.
We talk offline. I'm sure I know how the vote's going to go on this, despite our efforts, you know, based upon this conversation.
You never know. You never know, Richard. I've been plenty of times.
A good idea. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Josh, you've very kindly had your hand up for some time.
Yeah, well, one of the butters had asked for permission to speak, but
I'm gonna guess that's Priscilla O'Brien because she turned her camera on.
no, it's Alyssa.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Alyssa.
No, Margaret, this is Brian. Richie. So the email that you read that I sent to the JPNA board is that I was withdrawing my opposition because we were able to work something out.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. I appreciate your candor, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to get to a resolution. I don't want that to be overshadowed by, you know, everything else that's gone on. So, you know, we asked for a vote tonight based upon our commitment to give you an easement, which you requested, and to make the modifications we made. And we're hopeful that, you know, the neighborhood will support that, especially as a signal that this is the proper way to address things, especially with someone like you who's very involved with the neighborhood. And I feel, you know, that we did make that effort. So I just don't want that to be overshadowed based upon the fact that we, you know, somehow had a mishap here with the communication, what was read to the neighborhood.
Yeah, no problem. So can we move on?
Yes, that was the last agenda item. The next month, the March monthly meeting of the JPNA is scheduled for March 11th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We thank you very much for joining us this evening. We hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl and a good laugh at the Duncan ad that Ben Affleck was in. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and have a good night.